It was late, much later than I expected, when I received the call. At first, I thought it was a mistake, or maybe some kind of wrong number. It was an unknown number, the kind of call you usually ignore. But that night, something inside me urged me to pick up. "Hello," I said, my voice rough from the long day at work. "Is this George Miller?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, but it had a strange urgency to it. "Yeah, this is George," I replied, still half expecting it to be a telemarketer or some automated service. But this was different. There was something about it that didn't sit right. "I'm sorry to call you so late, but you need to know something. It's about your wife, Claire." The mention of her name instantly made my stomach tighten. I'd been married to Claire for nearly 7 years, and nothing had ever felt off, at least not in a way that would make me expect a call like this. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice growing cautious. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. There was a pause on the other end, almost like the person was unsure whether they should say more. "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but Claire's been seeing someone else." My heart dropped. I couldn't process the words. They felt too surreal, too out of place. Claire was the last person I would have ever suspected of cheating. The woman I trusted completely, the one I thought had been my partner in everything. There were no signs, no late-night texts, no suspicious behavior, nothing that would make me think she was hiding something. "She's been meeting with someone for months," the voice continued. "It's been going on for a while now, and I think you deserve to know the truth." I felt the world tilt beneath me. This couldn't be real. I didn't want it to be. "Who is this? Why are you telling me this?" I managed to ask, my voice now strained with confusion and disbelief. The voice sighed. "I can't say much more, but I thought you should know before things get worse. I'm sorry. Good luck." The call ended abruptly, leaving me staring at my phone in shock. I sat there for a while, the silence in the room deafening. Who would do something like this? Why would someone call me with such a cryptic message and then hang up without any explanation? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just a prank. Maybe it was some sort of mistake. But the more I thought about it, the more the words echoed in my mind. "She's been seeing someone else." I stood up, pacing back and forth in the dimly lit room, trying to calm myself down. My mind raced. I thought about Claire, about all the little things that might have been signs I had missed. She had been working late a lot recently, yes, but that didn't necessarily mean something was wrong. She was always busy, always consumed by her work. But now, in the quiet of the night, every little thing I hadn't noticed before seemed to stand out. I told myself it didn't make sense. It didn't fit the Claire I knew. She wouldn't do something like this, not after all these years. But the more I thought about it, the more the seeds of doubt began to grow. I had to confront her, didn't I? But how could I even begin to ask? How could I approach her with something so out of left field, something so far beyond my comprehension? I was terrified of what I might find. The next day, I did what anyone would do in my situation. I acted like everything was normal. I went through my morning routine, made breakfast, had a normal conversation with Claire as if nothing had happened. But inside, I was unraveling. I didn't say anything to her that day. I couldn't. How could I? The thought of accusing her, of confronting her about something so monstrous, made my stomach turn. I didn't know how to process it. So I did nothing. I stayed quiet. But that night, when she came home, I couldn't help myself anymore. The doubt gnawed at me like a predator stalking its prey. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it scared me. "Claire," I said as we sat down for dinner, my voice suddenly trembling despite my best efforts to stay calm. "There's something I need to ask you." She looked at me, her eyes soft and questioning. "What is it, George?" I hesitated for a moment. Should I just come out and say it? Should I tell her what I had heard, what I had been told? Would she even admit it? But my gut told me that if I didn't ask, I would never know. "Have you been seeing anyone else?" The words felt alien on my tongue, like they didn't belong in our world, in our marriage. But there they were. Claire's expression changed instantly, her face turning pale. She looked away for a moment, like she was trying to find the right words. But I could see it in her eyes. She knew what I was talking about. She knew exactly what I had found out. I don't know how long we sat there in silence, but the weight of her unspoken words crushed me more than any confession ever could. The moment I asked her, I knew something was wrong. Claire's face, usually calm and collected, now looked like she'd been caught in a lie too big to deny. Her eyes darted to the side, and for a split second, I could have sworn I saw panic there. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at her plate. The silence between us was thick, unbearably thick. I waited and waited. Finally, Claire looked up, but instead of the honesty I was expecting, her expression shifted, a small, almost imperceptible smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. It wasn't a reassuring smile. It was one that made my blood run cold. "George," she said, her voice soft, but there was an edge to it. "Where is this coming from?" I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the blood rushing to my head. So, she's not denying it. My worst fear was starting to feel like reality. "Someone called me last night," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, even though everything in me wanted to yell, to demand answers. "They told me you've been seeing someone else." Claire's eyes widened, but she didn't speak right away. I could see her processing, trying to find a way out, a way to explain this in some way that would make sense. But the longer she stayed silent, the more I could feel the truth settling in like a stone in my stomach. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "You know how these things work, George. People make up stories. Maybe someone's just messing with you." Her voice was a little too casual, a little too rehearsed. It didn't feel genuine, not at all. I didn't know what to say to that. It felt like a feeble attempt to cover up something that was already too far out in the open. "Do you really think I'm that stupid, Claire?" I asked, my voice rising without me even realizing it. "Do you really think I'm going to believe that?" She didn't flinch, didn't try to explain herself further. Instead, she just shrugged. "What do you want me to say, George? It's not like I'm going to change anything now." The words hit me like a slap. Not going to change anything? That was it. After everything we had been through together, after all the years we'd spent building a life, she was just going to brush it off like it meant nothing? I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor, the sound sharp in the silence of the room. "You're telling me you've been seeing someone, and you're just going to shrug it off? No apology, no regret?" Claire stood up too, her face now a mixture of frustration and annoyance. "I didn't ask for your forgiveness, George. I didn't ask for anything. You've been distant for months, and I've been trying to make it work. But maybe we're just not meant to be. Maybe this marriage has run its course." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This marriage has run its course? The woman I had loved, the woman I had given everything to, was telling me that we were done, just like that. No fighting for us, no remorse, just an easy, convenient exit. I didn't know what to do with myself. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand that she take it all back, to beg her to fix it. But another part of me, the part that was slowly starting to realize what had been happening, knew that it was too late. She had made up her mind. But what about me? What was I supposed to do with this sudden emptiness that had taken over? How do you rebuild when everything you thought you knew is a lie? I didn't answer her. I couldn't. There was nothing left to say. I just turned and walked out of the room, my thoughts a swirling mess of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. I don't know how long I stood outside, just pacing in the backyard, trying to make sense of everything. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, trying to find some clue I had missed, some sign that could explain how everything went so wrong. But the truth was staring me in the face. Claire was no longer the woman I had married. She had changed, and I didn't know who she was anymore. What hurt the most wasn't even the affair. It was the realization that I had never really known her at all. How long had she been pretending? How long had I been living a lie? I went back inside eventually, but the house felt different. It felt like a place where strangers lived, not a home. Claire was gone when I returned. No note, no explanation, just gone. And that was the moment it truly hit me. I had lost her. And what came next was something I never could have anticipated. The house felt colder when I walked back inside. Claire was gone. No bags packed. No signs that she was leaving. Just an empty space where she had been. It was surreal. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the quiet. I had no idea where she'd gone or what she was doing. Had she planned this? Had she known that she was leaving for a while, and I had just been blind to it? I checked the time. It was late. Too late to start calling people, too late to find answers. I picked up my phone, but the screen remained blank. No messages from her. Nothing. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. I paced around the house, trying to make sense of everything. But no matter how many times I went over it, the pieces didn't fit. Claire had been acting distant for a while, yes. But this, her leaving without a word, without a single explanation, didn't make sense. I found myself walking to the living room, sitting on the couch where we'd spent so many nights together. Our couch. But now it just felt like a reminder of everything I had lost. The silence was deafening. There was no more laughter, no more shared glances. It was just me, alone in this space that used to feel like home. I needed answers. I couldn't just sit here in the dark, letting my thoughts spiral out of control. But what was I supposed to do? Call her? What could I possibly say after the way she had just walked out? My fingers hovered over my phone, but I stopped myself. If she wanted to talk, she would reach out, right? I tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, my mind kept running through everything. Our conversations, our moments together, every time she had been distant, every time I had convinced myself it was nothing. Could I have missed the signs all along? I got up early the next morning, still no word from Claire. I tried to go through the motions, eat, shower, work, but it all felt like a blur. The house felt too quiet, too empty. I went through the motions like I was on autopilot, my mind a million miles away. How was I supposed to keep going when the world I knew had just crumbled around me? Then, just as I thought I couldn't take the silence any longer, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. I opened it, my heart racing. George, you need to know the truth. Claire isn't the person you think she is. She's been hiding something from you for months, and I don't think you know just how deep it goes. The message was short, but it hit me like a punch to the gut. What was this person trying to tell me? I didn't know if I could trust them, but at this point, I didn't know who to trust anymore. Everything was upside down. I stared at the message for a long time, my mind racing. Who could it be? Why were they telling me this? And why now? There was only one way to find out. The message sat there on my phone, mocking me with its simplicity. Who could it be? Was it Claire, trying to make some kind of twisted attempt at explaining herself? Or was it someone else? My mind ran wild with possibilities. I stared at the screen, my fingers itching to reply, but I hesitated. Something about the message didn't sit right with me. It felt like a warning, not an invitation to talk. I decided to reply anyway. Who is this? I typed, trying to keep my emotions in check. The response came almost immediately. You need to listen. She's been seeing someone you know. And it's not just a fling. I felt my heart race. Someone I know? The words echoed in my mind. Who could it be? It couldn't be Tom, could it? The thought made me feel sick to my stomach. He had been around our house, hanging out with us a few times, but I never thought he would cross that line. Not with Claire. Not with my wife. I typed back quickly, my hands shaking. What do you mean? Who is she seeing? The reply came slower this time, as if the person on the other end was deciding how much to reveal. I'm not trying to hurt you, George, but you deserve the truth. Claire's been with someone for a while now, and I think you've been too blind to see it. It's not just one person, either. I read those words over and over. It's not just one person. What did that mean? Was there more than one affair? How could Claire, the woman I loved, be capable of something like that? My head spun as I thought of every possibility. But I couldn't keep going down this rabbit hole. I needed to know more. I needed to confront her again, to hear it from her own mouth. But I also knew that if I confronted her, I might lose everything. I sat there for a moment, weighing my options, before I made a decision. I needed to find out for sure. I wasn't going to sit around and let this consume me without answers. I needed to know what had really been happening behind my back. Without thinking, I jumped up and grabbed my coat. I needed to find Claire, needed to confront her face to face. As I left the house, I grabbed my phone again to check the message one last time. But this time, the screen was different. The message was gone, vanished into thin air, as if it had never existed. My stomach dropped. Had someone been playing me this whole time? Or worse, was this some kind of game that Claire had set up, designed to make me question everything I thought I knew? I drove aimlessly, my thoughts spinning. The silence in the car felt unbearable. I had to find her. I had to get to the bottom of this. As I neared our old apartment, the place I had never imagined I would return to under these circumstances, my mind raced through every conversation, every argument we'd ever had. Had I missed the signs all along? How had I not seen this coming? I pulled up to the building, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I was about to knock on her door, demand answers, but something stopped me. The hallway was too quiet. There was something off about the whole situation. I decided to take a few more minutes to think. And then I saw it. A figure walking out of the apartment building, head down, avoiding my gaze. I froze as I recognized them. It was Tom. My stomach churned as I realized the implications of what I was seeing. Tom had been the one to call me that night. Tom had been the one to send me that cryptic message. And now here he was, walking out of Claire's apartment like nothing was wrong. I stood there, paralyzed, as the reality of the situation began to set in. This wasn't just about Claire anymore. This was about betrayal on a level I couldn't even begin to comprehend. And I was just getting started. I stood frozen in the parking lot, staring at Tom as he walked away from the building. My mind was racing. What the hell was he doing here? This wasn't just a coincidence. Tom had been in and out of our lives for years. Always the charming friend, always there when Claire needed him. But now, seeing him leave her apartment like this, my entire world felt like it was crumbling. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't just stand there, wondering if I was right or if my paranoia was getting the best of me. I quickly made my way toward the building, my steps fast and determined. I had to know the truth, and I wasn't going to leave until I had answers. I reached the door to Claire's apartment building and hesitated. The knot in my stomach was tighter than ever, but I pushed through it. I took a deep breath and pressed the buzzer to her apartment. My finger hovered for a moment before I pressed it again. The seconds felt like minutes as I waited, but there was no answer. Claire wasn't home. Of course she wasn't. She had been avoiding me for days now, and the more I thought about it, the more it felt like she had already made up her mind. But then the door cracked open. Not Claire, but Tom. He stood there, looking at me with a strange mixture of surprise and guilt. His eyes flicked down to the ground for a moment before meeting mine. "George," he said, his voice too casual, as if everything was normal. But I could see the tension in his shoulders. He knew exactly why I was here. "What's going on?" I didn't know what to say. All I could think about was how every single conversation I'd ever had with Tom now felt like a lie. How many times had he smiled at me, offering support, all while keeping secrets I could never have imagined. "I know about you and Claire," I said, my voice low, but the words came out sharp. Tom's face didn't change at first, but I could see his eyes dart to the side, a flicker of panic in them before he quickly masked it with a smile. "George, listen. It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," I demanded, my voice trembling with anger and disbelief. "Tell me what the hell you're doing here." He hesitated for a moment, clearly trying to figure out how to spin this, but then he let out a sigh. "It's complicated, man. I didn't want it to happen like this. But Claire, she came to me for support. You've been distant for so long, and don't you dare try to justify this," I interrupted, my fists clenching at my sides. The anger was boiling over now. "You've been sleeping with my wife, Tom. That's not support. That's betrayal." Tom took a step back, clearly taken aback by the intensity of my words. "It wasn't like that," he said, his voice almost pleading now. "We didn't plan it. But Claire, she needed someone. You weren't there for her the way she needed you to be." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I wasn't there for her. That's what this was about. I shook my head, unable to process what I was hearing. "You're telling me that after everything we've been through, you thought it was okay to sleep with her?" Tom's silence was all the answer I needed. He had no excuse, no justification. He knew what he had done. He just didn't think I'd ever find out. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady now, despite the turmoil inside. "I don't ever want to see you again. Stay away from her. Stay away from me." Tom opened his mouth to say something, but I turned and walked away before he could. The door slammed shut behind me, and the weight of the situation hit me full force. The man I thought was a friend had been the one to betray me the most. But what did that say about Claire? If Tom had been hiding this from me, what else had she been hiding? I didn't have answers yet. But one thing was clear: this wasn't over. The truth was out there, and I was going to find it, no matter how painful it would be. I left the building, my heart pounding in my chest. Tom's words kept echoing in my mind, but I couldn't focus on them. I needed space. I needed time to think, to figure out what to do next. But as I reached my car, I stopped short. Standing by my vehicle was a figure I hadn't expected to see. Claire. My stomach churned. She looked different, disheveled, worn out, her eyes red as if she had been crying for hours. It didn't make sense. Why was she here? After everything that had happened, I thought she would avoid me. But there she was, standing in front of me, like she was waiting for me to do something. "George," she said softly, her voice shaky. "Can we talk?" I couldn't believe it. After everything, she was asking to talk? My mind was reeling. What did she even want to say to me? She'd already made her choice. She had already thrown everything away. But there was something in her eyes, some hint of vulnerability that I couldn't ignore. Against my better judgment, I found myself nodding. Talk, I said, my voice flat, betraying none of the anger and hurt that were roiling inside me. She took a deep breath, clearly struggling to find the words. I didn't know how to tell you, she began, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't want you to find out like this. Like what, Claire? I asked, my voice tight. How else was I supposed to find out? You think this was the best way? You think leaving me in the dark was somehow better? She flinched, but continued. It wasn't like that. I didn't plan for it to happen this way. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. And Tom, he was just there? He listened when you stopped. Her words hit me like a freight train. Tom, that was her excuse? I couldn't process it fast enough. You're telling me this was just some moment of weakness? I asked, my voice growing sharper. That Tom was just a shoulder to cry on? That's it. No, she said quickly, reaching for my arm, her touch desperate. No, George, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just about Tom. It's about everything. About us. About how distant we've become. I don't know when it happened, but I started feeling like I was living with a stranger. And I didn't know how to fix it. I stared at her, my mind reeling from the admission. A stranger? Had I been so oblivious to everything? So lost in my own world that I didn't see her slipping away, little by little? I didn't cheat on you because I wanted to hurt you, Claire continued, her voice breaking. I did it because I felt like I had no other choice. I felt like I was dying inside. I didn't want to be this person. The weight of her words crashed over me. I had always thought that if things fell apart, if we were in trouble, we'd talk, we'd fix it. But she had been dealing with all of this alone. She'd kept it from me, kept everything from me. I took a step back, shaking my head. You think I wasn't trying? You think I wasn't there for you? My voice cracked, but I couldn't stop it. I spent years with you, Claire. How could you not see that? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. I did see it, George, but it wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to feel alive again, and I got lost in the idea that someone else could make me feel that way. I felt like I was drowning in the words she was saying. Was this really happening? Was she really telling me that she had cheated because I wasn't enough for her? Because she felt dead inside? I didn't know what to say. The pain in my chest was overwhelming. I loved her, but did she still love me? Claire wiped away a tear, her voice soft. I know this is hard for you to hear. It's hard for me too. I don't want to lose you, but I don't know how to fix this. I didn't know how to respond. The question that had been lingering in my mind, should I forgive her, hung in the air between us like an invisible thread. But I couldn't answer yet. I needed time. And the last thing I wanted was to rush into a decision I wasn't ready to make. I need space, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. I need time to think about all of this. I don't know what's going to happen, Claire, but I can't do this right now. Her face fell. She reached out, but I stepped back, holding up my hand. I can't. Not yet. She nodded, defeated. Okay, I understand. With one last look, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, alone with my thoughts. The weight of the situation hung heavily in the air, and I realized I was no closer to an answer than I had been before. But the truth was out, and now, I had to figure out what I was going to do with it. After Claire left, I felt a void inside me, a silence that seemed to stretch on forever. I didn't know what to do with the mess she had just handed me. Everything felt so broken. I couldn't focus, couldn't think. The reality of it all was too overwhelming. The woman I thought I knew, the one I'd shared a life with, had been living a lie for months. That night, I sat in the living room, staring at the blank TV screen. I kept replaying our conversation over and over in my head. Had I missed the signs? Had I been so lost in my own world that I failed to see she was slipping away? But even as the doubts crept in, there was a small part of me that couldn't just let go. I couldn't believe everything was over. Not like this. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. I stared at the screen. It was Claire. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't pick up. I couldn't. Not yet. The phone rang again. This time, I answered it. George. Claire's voice came through, shaky and uncertain. Can we just talk, please? I didn't know how to respond. What did she expect me to say? Did she think a few more words would fix everything? Claire, I don't know if I can, I finally said, my voice cracking. I don't know if I can just forget everything. I don't expect you to, she replied quickly. But I need you to know, George, I never meant for any of this to happen. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. Her words hung in the air. A mistake. That's all this was to her. A mistake? I wasn't sure if I could buy that. I don't know if sorry is enough, I muttered, staring at the floor. I understand, Claire said, her voice softening. But please, just give me a chance to explain. Let me tell you everything. I closed my eyes, trying to gather my thoughts. I wasn't sure if I was ready for the truth, but I couldn't ignore the desperation in her voice. Maybe it was just a plea for forgiveness. Or maybe, just maybe, there was more to the story than I knew. Fine, I said finally, my voice quiet but resolute. I'll listen, but I don't know what this is going to change. I could hear Claire take a deep breath on the other end of the line. Thank you, George. I promise you, this isn't what you think. The words echoed in my head, but I wasn't sure what to believe anymore. The woman I thought I knew was gone, and I wasn't sure if she was coming back. The next few days felt like a blur, each one dragging on longer than the last. Claire and I agreed to meet, but neither of us knew what to expect. The tension between us was unbearable. We both wanted to fix what had been broken, but the road ahead felt uncertain, a path shrouded in doubt. When the day finally came, I showed up at the cafe where we'd agreed to meet. I sat down, trying to steady my nerves. I wasn't sure if I was ready for the truth, but I knew it was the only way forward. Claire walked in, looking much the same as she had the other night. Worn, fragile, but with an air of resolve that hadn't been there before. She sat down across from me, her eyes immediately searching mine, full of hope and regret. I've thought about everything you said, George, she began quietly. And I realize now that I've hurt you more than I could ever explain. I didn't just make a mistake, I broke the trust we had. And I understand if you can't forgive me. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her, taking in her words. The guilt and remorse in her voice were real. But so was the love. And I could feel it, even through all the hurt. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, she continued. But I'm asking for a chance, not to erase the past, but to build something new, something better. I sighed, the weight of it all still heavy on my shoulders. I don't know, Claire. I've been hurt, and it's hard to even know where to start. But I've never stopped loving you. And that's the hardest part of all this, seeing you and not knowing what to do with all the emotions inside. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, they weren't just from guilt. There was a glimmer of hope in them, a sign that maybe we could move forward. I'm not asking for everything to go back to how it was. I know I can't expect that, she said softly. But I am asking for a chance to prove to you that I can change, that I can be the wife you deserve. I looked at her for a long moment, letting the silence between us stretch. This wasn't going to be easy. Trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. But the truth was, I wasn't ready to walk away from the woman I still loved. We had been through too much together, built too much together. I'm willing to try, I finally said, my voice quiet but certain. But it's going to take time. We have a lot of work to do, Claire. But I'm not giving up on us. Not yet. Claire's face lit up, relief flooding her features. Thank you, George. Thank you for giving us this chance. As we sat there, talking through everything, our mistakes, our fears, and our hopes for the future, the weight on my chest slowly began to lift. We both knew that healing would take time, and there were no guarantees. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the same page again, like there was hope for us yet. And that's all I needed, to believe that there was a chance, however small, to rebuild what we'd lost. It wouldn't be easy, but we were finally facing the future together. And for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. The end of one chapter was only the beginning of another. And this time, we were going to write it together.